Hi everybody, thanks for tuning into the channel today. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. I'm supposed to say that early on, but I always forget and usually say it at the end. So I'll say it first thing today. Today I'm going to do just my own personal little review of the Squier Classic Vibe Starcaster. This is basically a sort of replica, an attempt to kind of remake the old mid-70s Fender Starcaster. The 70s was a weird time for Fender. It had been bought by CBS. Also, all the guitar manufacturers in the 70s, like Gibson, and also they had been bought by much larger companies. And these companies their accountants tried to take guitars and say, well, this is just a piece of wood and some metal. It's like furniture. We'll mass produce it and build it like furniture and use these economies of scale, and we'll make a lot more profit. And they came up with some ideas that worked and some didn't work, and it's surprising to me how collectible those guitars are today, because when I was a kid in the 70s working in a music store, it was my after-school job in high school, there were these instruments that came in, and some of them were pretty weird and some of them weren't all that great, but one that was great was the Starcaster. Gibson kind of owned the whole market of semi-hollow body guitars. And Epiphone had their Sheraton series and stuff. And Fender had tried like the Antigua, but it was not hugely popular. And the Starcaster was another attempt to kind of snag that. And again, it was not hugely popular. It lasted a few years, maybe 4 or 5 years. And then I think by maybe 1981, 82, they quit making them altogether. The Starcaster is a neat idea. It's a semi-hollow body with an offset body. So if you're like a 335, that's kind of the market that they're trying to go after, like the Gibson 335, but they got the offset body, which makes this very comfortable to hold, and it looks cool too. The original Starcaster had a kind of custom bridge and tailpiece assembly. It was very unique, very different, and the strings routed through the body. This remake of it uses the classic sort of trapeze tailpiece and like a tunematic bridge. And it works fine. I think it's actually probably better and stays in tune better than the originals did. The controls on the original had 5 knobs. There was the usual tone, volume for each pickup, and there was a master volume switch, volume knob, which was also kind of handy too. One of the unique qualities of this thing, which gives it a unique sound, is that for a semi-hollow body, it's got a bolt-on neck. So you get more snap out of it than you do out of a 335. The neck on these was vaguely reminiscent of the Telecaster. A very skinny neck by today's standards. It's a kind of a C kind of profile, and the frets are kind of like the medium variety. Not really small, but kind of medium. They're not the usual jumbo ones you see on a lot of guitars. And the neck radius on this is 9.5 inches. So it's got a real kind of accented curve. If you're like a big, Joe Satriani type, way away on the fingerboard, tapping and bending and doing, huge 1.5 bends, this is not the guitar for you, because it'll fret out because of the curve, right? When you're bending, you're going up against that arch of the curve, and so as you're reaching the apex of that, it's going to fret out. But if you are like me, I play with a little bit heavier strings. I've got strung with 10s. Every guitar manufacturer sends out their guitars with 9s for the most part. But I put 10s on this, and it's just where I like the sound and the feel of it. The action on this can be very, very, very low and very comfortable. And I really like the feel and the sound of it. The pickups are these Fender wide range design. They're a humbucker pickup, which is really nice because if you play Telecasters and Strats and stuff, hum is just a part of life. And if you look at the way the pole pieces are arranged on these, I'll kind of put this in the light here. Maybe I'll move it over this way to this. There we go. That's a good shot there on the other camera. If you look at the pole pieces, they're staggered, much like the Fender Precision bass. So you get a hum canceling effect out of them. And so it's a very quiet guitar for the most part. You may hear a little bit of hiss in here right now. That's just coming from my amp, but there's no buzz that comes from these. But because they're the special windings that they have in these, and this split pickup design, it's a pretty bright pickup. and it has a wider range than a humbucker, a lot more top end. It's not quite as snappy as a Telecaster or a Strat, but it has a lot more high end than a humbucker. But it also has this real great warmth, and so it kind of sits in between them. It's a really good place for the tone. The headstock on these things. Look at this headstock. I got a tuner on the end there, so pardon that, but it's got this weird dark strip. Man, this thing looks like totally 70s, doesn't it? And this big old, look at the shark looking kind of thing. Go this other way for it, you can see it. But the headstock on these was people had mixed feelings about it. I always thought it was kind of cool, especially with the little dark thing. And this was a premium guitar for Fender at the time. When these came out, you could buy a brand new American-made Strat for $375 with a case. Hard shell case, not a bag. A hard shell Fender coffin style case came with it free. That was one of Fender's selling points. Is that if Gibson, you bought a Gibson, you had to buy a case for another $95 or $100 or whatever. So these instruments, when they came out, they had a lot of personality and a lot of things to draw to them. But the end of the 70s, you get this sway towards your Ibanez type guitars, you know, with the brass sustain blocks and brass nuts, and the vintage kind of thing kind of went away, and they were trying to look something 21st century, I guess. And so there was a lot of different, you know, these kind of style guitars just didn't catch on. It just didn't last. But let me play you a little bit on this, and let's talk a little bit here. So I've got volumes. I got the middle pickup, and the volumes are set kind of in the middle here. Now my amp here, I'm one of those oddball kind of guys. I like playing a guitar through a bass amp. And so I've got a little 25-watt acoustic bass amp, the wedge kind of thing here. And it's got distortion in it. And so my tone controls, I've set the bass pretty low on it. Mids are set in the middle. Highs up about 70%, about 60-70%. And this has a little distortion control where you can go there and you can just dial in you know, however much distortion you want. And I just have a tiny bit of grind in there, so it's mostly clean, but if I really punch it, you'll get a little bit of growl out of it. So as I'm playing here, these are just the two pickups together, volume's about halfway up, tones all the way up. It's so warm. Hear that snap. So it's got that great sound. So it has a great tone. I just love the sound of it. The two pickups together. You can play some great country rhythm on this. Is really resonant. I mean, you can feel it vibrating against your chest like an acoustic, but it's feedback resistance because it's got a sustain block in the middle. The middle, like under the pickups, it's solid. But you can feel this whole thing vibrate. So if you want to just play without even plugging in, you know, just you're writing a song or you're playing at night when nobody's, you know, everybody's asleep in the house, this thing sounds really good. Let me hear this. Here's the front pickup, about 50% volume. Bridge pickup. Let's try something a little bit different. So you get as good as a bit of spank out of it. So like I said, these are halfway up. Kind of what I like to do is put the pickup selector in the middle, and I would just kind of blend the pickups depending on whatever the song needs. But like I said, if you go like, there's halfway up. I crank my volume up now, so I've gone from 50% up to full. So that's the rear pickup. I can dial that back down. And I come to the front. So I have a little bit of spring reverb on that, as you can tell, off my pedal board. Now if you want to, like, one of the things that really bugs me when people do reviews, as if they just play the guitar just grinding, you know, through distortion the whole time. I want to hear the guitar, not the pedal. But so you hear pretty much what the guitar sounds like. I'm going to throw a little bit of grind on there now with the distortion pedal. That's both pickups with the volume about halfway. Now here's the full up lead tone. So it's really grind. I mean, you can make some pretty good. Now here's more of your kind of jazzy. Kind of thing there, that little saturated. So it really sustains good. Now you could play blues with this. You could play, you know, classic rock. You could do, I mean, add some crazy effects on there. You could do the shoegaze thing. I haven't tried it with my ambient setup. I have to look forward to trying that out sometime. If you're like kind of into the Fish kind of thing, or Grateful Dead, oh man, this thing is just the perfect thing for it. I mean, if you're into like doing like, you know, something like, you know, Fire on the Mountain. Oops, let me get my grind off there. It's got that great, that's real, it's got snap, warmth, everything that you really need. Let's see, add a little bit of a delay on here. Oh, here we go, let's have some fun with this. Let's do some envelope follower. Pretty fun. So if you are into vintage sounds, this is a great playing and feeling guitar. These would go, what, for $3.99 or something like that, brand new. Find them cheaper used. They come in black, they come in a nice sunburst. I love this natural, be able to see the wood grain. You could probably use it for some upgrades. One thing I dig is they've got the vintage style tuners on the back here, and I don't know, I really enjoy this guitar a lot, so I'd highly recommend it. If you have questions, comments, observations, please put them in the comments down below, and thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you around. See ya. Bye.